Good evening. The other evening we started by saying that as a human being you are a pendulum, and you are acted upon and you move in accordance with whichever way the thoughts that fly in the air may move you. If there is pessimism or fear or danger in the air, you feel downhearted and discouraged and blue and fearful. If there is an air of optimism and boom and prosperity in the air, you feel inflated. If there is infection and contagion in the air, the first thing you know, you have flu or grip or whatnot. And these things ought not to be, because you were given dominion over everything between the sky and the waters beneath the earth. Everything. You were given dominion by grace of God. But instead of taking dominion, exercising dominion, we wake up in the morning and we get dressed and we have breakfast and we run off to work, and we leave our minds a perfect blank for anybody to operate on or in, for anybody to influence whichever way the wind blows. Now, it is for this reason that as humans, the world experiences those things that it does, because it has been demonstrated that those who are willing to take the driver's seat in their mind and to govern their own thinking and to decide what they wish to think and for how long a time they wish to think it, that these people have some dominion over their own lives. We have been taught how to do that. I'm going to give you a concrete illustration of how the power of thought acting on us influences us. There is a minister who recently wrote a book on the effect of prayer on plants. He wrote this book after several years of experiment, and I might go further and say that those same experiments have been conducted by others for many, many more years before he ever heard of it. And the results are always exactly as he had them. Now, he discovered this, that if you take a plant, place it on a table, and have 1, 2, or 3 people sit in front of it and address it in what you might call prayer, or what we would call treatment, and love that plant. Tell that plant that God created it, that it is a child of God, that it is fed by God and nourished by God and sustained by God, and God loves it, and God wants it to be fruitful and to multiply and to come out and show forth beauty and glory. That a few days of that kind of treatment, that plant will grow at least 4 inches beyond its normal growth, the normal growth of that species. It will have many times the amount of leaves, buds, and eventually blossoms. But take another plant of the same species and have 1, 2, or 3 people sit before it and treat it in reverse and say, you hateful thing, you're ugly, nobody wants you and nobody loves you, you just don't belong in this universe, you ought to die. That plant will shrivel within 1 day and die within 2. Don't forget that this man experimented with hundreds of plants of all different types. And always the experience was the same, that if you had people sit before these plants and think right thoughts, they blossomed. And if they thought wrong thoughts, negative thoughts, they shriveled and they died. Now, in the experience of the Hawaiian kahunas, there were the good kahunas and the bad kahunas. And the good kahunas were those who thought right thoughts about you, blessed thoughts about you. And you prospered, and you were healed, and you were blessed. The bad kahuna sent the wrong thoughts at you, and you got sick and you died. You may not believe in it, but that doesn't change it. It happened. In Arabia, they raise the very finest horses in the world. There's supposed to be nothing finer than the Arabian horse. What makes the Arabian horse the finest horse in the world? It is the only country in the world where, when the mare is in foal, a man of the mosque goes out every single day into the stables and reads to it from the Holy Koran, their Bible, their scriptures. And it reads love, and it reads truth, and it reads life. And they bring forth the finest. We, in our work, have found that when women are pregnant and carrying their children, that if they are immersed in this work and they read the scriptures, they read spiritual literature, they meditate, not only that they go through the period of their pregnancy with less trouble than ordinarily is the case, but that they too bring forth harmony in the experience of their children. In many cases, carrying their children all the way through childhood without children's diseases. The whole of what I'm trying to say is this, that you govern your surroundings by the nature of what is taking place in your consciousness. You can make people love you very easily. You can make them dislike you even more easily. To be received joyfully it is only necessary for you to live constantly in the realization that wherever you travel and whoever you travel with or among, that these are children of God, that these are God's creations, that God made you in His image and likeness, that God planted Himself in the midst of you, that God gave unto you His mind, His life, His soul, Now, you are not saying this aloud to anybody. You are thinking this within your own heart, in your own mind. And not merely for 5 minutes. This is the attitude into which you have come through your studies, in which always, regardless of the appearance, you are seeing the spiritual identity enthroned. Well, you may not believe this now, but you can experiment and prove for yourself that it won't take long until people are beginning to think you have changed. You have become something other. They love you now. They didn't before, but they love you now. Oh, how you have changed. Only one change took place. You are seeing them as they are. You are not judging by appearances. You are judging righteous judgment. If you want to be well hated, all you have to do is take an inner mental attitude of criticism, judgment, and condemnation toward this world and the people in it, and see if they do not react to what's going on in your consciousness. I remember one time when I was reading a Thanksgiving Day service in prison, Christian Science service, and the first service in the morning is the Catholic service, and then the Protestant service, and the Jewish service, and then the Christian Science service. And on Thanksgiving Day, each of these churches, except the Christian Science one, gives out candies and cigarettes and fruit and things like that to all those who attend the service. And when it come our term, man went through announcing 11 o'clock Christian Science service, no free gifts. But the men were there. The men were there, plenty of them. As a matter of fact, I might tell you this, that in 18 months our attendance jumped from an average of 11 men to 168 men. Now, what did it? What I'm telling you now. Don't go into a prison and see a lot of prisoners who are bad men and hope to reform them. But go into the prison and realize that regardless of the human conduct of any individual, within them is the seed of God, divinity. The kingdom of God is within them. The kingdom of love, the kingdom of life, the kingdom of truth is within them. The fact that they haven't awakened to it has nothing to do with it. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God? Know ye not that your body is the temple of God? That's addressed to mankind. We don't always know it. We sometimes abuse the body, not realizing that it's not our body, it's the temple of God. We certainly abuse each other every time we indulge in unnecessary judgment, criticism, harshness. Now, by realizing that man actually is the temple of God, and that his body is the temple of God, and that the kingdom of God dwells in him, and by realizing that as an habitual state of thought, you are praying. We really call it giving a treatment, but it's prayer. Because what it amounts to is we are holding the truth of being in our consciousness. And that's what prayer is, and that's what, on its lower level, on the higher level, you know, prayer is communion with God. But on its first level, it is replacing truth, replacing beliefs with truth. But we also call that treatment in metaphysics. It doesn't mean we're trying to change anybody. It doesn't mean we're trying to heal them of anything or reform them. It means that we are giving ourselves a treatment about the appearance. The appearance testifies to a sick mortal or a sinful mortal. But we're not to judge by appearances. And therefore, our treatment is a recognition of the truth. Not an attempt to change anyone. It's a recognition of the truth. I know thee who thou art. Who? The Son of God. That's a treatment. If I abide in that treatment continuously about you, knowing that you are the temple of God, your body is the temple of God. God dwells in his temple, therefore God dwells in you. The kingdom of God is within you. You respond by thinking, oh, I like that fella. I don't know, there's something nice about him. You haven't the faintest idea in the world what it is. But what it is this. You know as well as I do that no matter how sick you may be or how much of a sinner, that actually there's a place in you which is awfully good and which nobody has recognized. You know that there's a divine spot within you, no matter how much the world condemns you, and no matter what you may be doing to deserve that condemnation. You know that you don't want to be doing it. You know that it's in spite of yourself that you're doing it, and that actually, if the world could only know it, you're a swell fellow inside. Ah, but you see, I have recognized that without your telling me. And by my recognizing it, you have the feeling, here is someone who understands me. Here is someone who knows me. But you don't know why you feel that way. Now, the same way, the moment you adopt that, you begin to have dominion over your human relationships. You are stopping people from hating you. You are stopping people from disliking you. You are stopping people from mistrusting you. And you are building up in them an affection for you, a trust of you, a confidence in you. Because you're the fellow who understands them. You're the fellow who has sought out and found their hidden spot, the divinity. So you see that by knowing the truth, or treating yourself with truth, as regards man, you already begin to have dominion over your human relationships. Now, so it is with our own lives, which heretofore we've thought of as occupying space from here to the ground and thinking that this is me. And here I am in a world of 400 billion people, or 4 billion people, and we get into this 400 billion through thinking of our debts. It's only 4 billion, not 400 billion. The debt is 400 billion. The people is just 4 billion. We think, oh, here I am, 1 in 4 billion. I'm nothing. What chance have I got against so much competition? And who am I? Nobody. What's going to get me any place? How am I going to achieve anything? Me, just an unknown against the world. And that's the appearance. That's the way it looks in the mirror. Now let us see what a treatment will do for us. I look out of my window and I see a coconut tree. And I see there a coconut on that tree. And all of a sudden I'm reminded of Jesus' statement that if you abide in the Word and let the Word abide in you, you will bear fruit richly. If you do not abide in the Word and let the Word abide in you, you will be as a branch of the tree that is cut off and withereth. And now you look back at this coconut and you say, it's on the tree, it is connected with the tree, and lo and behold, that's right. It's a beautiful coconut. It's a healthy looking coconut. And if I examine it, I'll find that it has the hard shell, and it has the soft meat, and it has the liquid milk inside. And that's because it's in its rightful place, hanging on a tree, connected with a tree. Why is that connection with the tree so important? Oh, because if it weren't connected with the tree, it would have only itself. But while it's connected with the tree, the life that's coming up through the roots and the trunk and the branches is flowing right out into that coconut. And that life is forming the shell and the meat and the milk. Ah, then, there's no such thing really as a coconut. There is the life of the tree which is forming itself externally as a coconut. But it wouldn't be doing that if it weren't attached to the tree. It never would get to be a complete coconut. But in its attachment to that tree, the life of the tree, the invisible life of the tree, flowing through the tree, flows out of the tree and becomes a coconut. It becomes the hard shell, it becomes the soft meat, and it becomes the liquid milk. And now we begin to see why we read in the scripture, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Why, certainly all that the life of that tree has flows out to the coconut, and the coconut has it all. And it has it in the forms that it needs. The hard shell, the soft meat, and the liquid milk. And then we say, oh, the mirror does not testify truly. I am not just a something that goes from here to the ground. There is an invisible bond between me and the tree of life, which we call God. And from the life which is God flows that life and becomes me. Oh, now it's different. I'm not a little fellow. I'm not a nobody. The life of God is my life. The mind of God is my mind. The soul of God is my soul. And God even becomes my body. My body is the temple of God. That life, that invisible life, flows out and forms heart, liver, lungs, and all there is to my body. And it forms my character, and it forms my intelligence, and it forms my love. Oh, this is different now. I and my Father are one, like the coconut and the tree is one. The tree is one form, the coconut is the manifested form. God is the tree of life, the life. I am the form which it assumes in individual expression. I and you and he and she and it. Now all of a sudden I'm a different being. Now I'm not this little insignificant man in 4 billion. Now the life of God is mine. The love, the mind, the intelligence, the wisdom, the guidance, and the direction of God is mine. And now I can say, I am the Son of God. Now are we the sons of God. Oh, what a different feeling that is than what I saw in the mirror. You can call this prayer if you like. We call it treatment. We call it giving ourselves a treatment. We don't want to change anything. We are declaring that which is true, but which was not evident to the 5 physical senses. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. What is the truth? Am I a lone mortal out in the world among 4 billion mortals? No. Am I an insignificant mentality? No, I have the mind of God. Am I a limited life that has to die? No, the life of God flows forth as my life. Ah, yes. Once I separate myself from the tree of life, I wither and die. How do I separate myself from that tree of life, from the flow of life eternal? By shutting it out of my mind. My consciousness is the connecting link. What takes place in my consciousness gives me my oneness with God. What does not take place in my consciousness constitutes the separation. You must consciously know the truth, and the truth will make you free. But if you walk around with a vacuum, getting up in the morning and dressing and going out and doing about your business, and no thought of your contact with God, of your oneness with God, of your relationship with God, you might just as well be an orphan. Because the only contact there is between you and God must take place within your consciousness. If it doesn't take place there, it isn't taking place. Then you're like all the other humans walking up and down the earth, wondering what minute they're going to be keeled over with an accident or a sin or a disease or a strike or depression, always whammed around by the whims of forces over which they seemingly have no control, but over which they actually have supreme control at every minute. If only they'll take possession of their own thinking and think. Now, it isn't thinking that makes it so. Oh, no. It's your relationship with God that makes it so. It's your consciously bringing it to remembrance that establishes it in demonstration. I told a story today of one time when I had two savings bank accounts, and I drew the money out in order to buy a home. But I left $100 in each one of those accounts just to leave the account open, thinking later I'd build it up again, which I didn't do. But as the years passed and I moved from place to place, my bank books, of course, were lost, misplaced. And so 20 years went by. In New York State, if an account stays 20 years without being added to or subtracted from, the money belongs to the state. But the bank does make an effort to locate you before it turns it over to the estate, and they do this by publishing the number of the bank book in the newspapers. Now, there is an organization that makes a business of looking up those numbers every year in the newspaper and finding the people who own those lost bank books. And so lo and behold, one day I received a letter telling me that this outfit knew where I had money, and if I would give them half of it, they'd tell me where the money was. Well, of course, I was glad to have half. That's better than none. And so I accepted, and lo and behold, my $200 had grown to $400, or near that. And so by giving them half, I still had my $200. But the point that I want to make is this, that a short time before that was one of the periods that I had of really needing money. And $200 to me would have been a tremendous blessing. And I didn't have $200. But yes, I did. But it didn't do me any good. I didn't know it. I had it, and it could just as well have been $2,000 or $200,000. It still would have done me no good, because I didn't know I had it. That is the secret of what I'm telling you about treatment. Treatment doesn't make you the Son of God. That you are. Treatment doesn't bring God into your experience. It's already there. But it isn't doing you a bit of good, because you don't know the truth. So when you know the truth can make you free. But you must know the truth, and we call that specific treatment. Why specific treatment? Well, in the instance that I spoke of establishing yourself in your community among your fellow men, you must specifically know the truth about your fellow man, that he is the Son of God, that he is the temple of God, that his body is the temple of God, that God is enthroned within him. The kingdom of God is within him. That is a specific truth that you are knowing. In this instance with yourself, where you take the coconut tree and then begin to realize that if you're just a separate coconut, your life's very short and going to be shorter. But if you are at one with the tree, the life of that tree is maintaining you and sustaining you even as it formed you. As a matter of fact, it didn't form you, it formed itself as you. And that's a specific treatment about you and your mind and your body. In the same way, supposing you were suffering from some bodily ill that had to do with organs or functions of the body, and supposing you were to realize that those organs or functions, separate and apart from mind, from God, wouldn't function and couldn't function. Since they can't move of themselves, they can't function. This hand can't move. It can't give and it can't withhold of itself. It just has to stay here until I move it. Well, so it is with the heart and the liver and the lungs. They're just dead pieces of matter, unless there is an I to move them. And when there's an I to move them, they can't resist. The heart can't say, I won't beat. Digestive organs can't say, I won't digest. If you are there and realize that you are governing the heart, liver, lungs, the digestive organs, the eliminative organs, that God is the law unto your body, you'll change the picture which says that your body is a law unto you. If your stomach wants to get sick, it tells you it's sick and pains you. If the heart wants to get sick, it says to you, you're sick. Ah, yes, but that's because you're letting the heart and liver and lungs talk to you. But when you become aware of spiritual truth, you look at this body and you say, why, of yourself, you're nothing. You can't be sick or well. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to take possession of you. I'm going to take dominion over you. And don't forget this, the I that I'm talking about is my Father. The Father within me has dominion over you. The Father within me governs the actions of the organs and functions of this body, and the muscles, and the intelligence. That's treatment. That's a specific treatment that's aimed in it isn't aimed, remember, to change anything. It's to know the truth so that you can have the benefit of the truth operating for you. We speak of diseases that are caused by weather or climate. If you let them, they will. They will. They'll affect you. But when you begin to know the truth, you'll find out that the weather and the climate are governed by God. They didn't create themselves. God created weather and God created climate. Therefore, God has dominion over weather and over climate, and over your body too. And God never made weather or climate to be antagonistic to your body. And God didn't make your body to be antagonistic to the weather or the climate. And God didn't make your body to be given dominion by something else. God created your body, and God maintains your body and sustains your body. And if you're letting weather and climate affect it, don't forget that you're letting it happen. You're giving it that power because you are not asserting your dominion by knowing the truth. God gave me body and God gave me weather and climate. And God didn't make these antagonistic one to the other. It may be that we're dealing with infection and contagion. Did God create some form of life to be destructive to another form of life? No. 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 The appearance testifies to that by infection and contagion you can get a disease and die. But if you know the truth, you annihilate that, because the truth is that God did not make one form of life to be destructive to another. And therefore, whatever the germ life may be, in the sight of God it is not destructive, and God didn't empower it to be destructive. God has not empowered anything to be destructive. God's power is constructive. This is knowing specific truth, and this we call treatment. You're not treating anybody but yourself. And your treatment consists of knowing the truth about any given situation. And there is a spiritual truth about every specific situation. There isn't a situation that can come up in life, at least there never has been one yet, about which there isn't some specific spiritual truth. And you don't have to find out what these truths are now. When the occasion comes up, it's all right, turn within and the Father will give you the truth. And with the truth will give you the freedom. Now, if you had a business, you would have to know the truth about every department of that business, or pretty soon the business would run away with you. If you are teaching a subject and you don't know the subject, you aren't going to teach it very well, and pretty soon the students will be running away with you. And so it is with life. If you don't know the principles of life, you can't live it very well. And life is going to be more or less accidental. But the minute you know the principles of life and you take them into your consciousness and you remember them every time there is an opposing belief about them or suggestion, you are knowing the truth or giving a specific treatment. Now, it would appear to us that as human beings out here among this 4 billion, we're always struggling to be successful or to get by or to do as well as we should. And if we succeed, we think we're pretty good, pretty smart, pretty strong. If we don't, we're apt to blame all the circumstances in the world except ourselves. It's always the other fellow's fault, or it's the government's fault, or it's capitalism's fault, or it's communism's fault. But it's never the fault of our not knowing the principles of life to live by. Now, the other night we took up, although you didn't recognize it, a specific treatment. One that I call practicing the presence of God. You see, the appearance is that we are going through life. We are living our life and not having too much success. But the truth is, the specific truth is, that he that is within me is greater than he that is in the world. That he performeth that which is given me to do. That there is a presence that goes before me to make the crooked places straight. Oh, what a difference in my life when I bring those truths to conscious remembrance. And bringing those truths to conscious remembrance is specific treatment. That is a specific treatment against the sense of separation which would make it appear that we ourselves have to make success of our lives, as if we didn't have a big partner, the Father within. Every time we remember that there is a Father within, we are giving a specific treatment which corrects the belief that we're alone in 4 billion. Every time we remember a coconut tree with a coconut on it, we are giving a treatment for immortality and for intelligence and for support and supply. You must have studied this work long enough to know by now that there's not some old-fangled or new-fangled God sitting around anywhere caring tuppence halfpenny what happens to you. For all its concerns, you could jump off the roof or into the ocean. The people are doing it every day, and no God is stopping them. Accidents are happening. Children are kidnapped, stolen, raped, murdered. Where's this God? Every day youth are being destroyed in wars. Where's this God? There is a God. But don't you see that it is not operating in our experience until we specifically admit it by opening our consciousness to it, learning the truth of life, and putting those truths into operation through conscious awareness. That's how we take dominion, through truth. Not that I of my own self am anything, and not that I of my own self can be anything, not that I of my own self can do anything, but by virtue of this truth entertained in my consciousness, I'm set free of what? Limitation, disease, death, sin. There's no other way. At least no other way has been discovered yet. If there are other ways, they are yet to be discovered. The only way known is the way the Master taught, and some of the Hebrew prophets before him. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Lean not unto thine own understanding. Acknowledge him, and he'll give thee everything. Abide in the Word, and let the Word abide in you. Dwell in the secret place of the Most High. Do you not see that all of those things take conscious thought, conscious knowing of the truth, conscious application to the problems that confront us? Do you not know that when you get in your car to drive, that if you don't wish to be a statistic on the road, that you had better consciously realize that God is not only your mind at the wheel, but God is the mind of every individual on the road. You've got to pray for your enemies, remember. Pray before you get into a car, and when you're in it, and when you get out of it. Thank thee, Father, for thy presence at this wheel, and at the wheel of every car on the road. Do you see that? By consciously bringing that truth to bear, you not only keep yourself alert and awake at the driver's wheel, but you ensure that everyone else is going to stay awake and alert. And if there's someone drunk there, they're going to sober up pretty quickly. If you are knowing that God is at their wheel, God means intelligence, alertness, aliveness, love. Every business deal in the human world is gone into by someone because of the benefit they're going to get from it. And that is not the truth about business. That is not the truth about business. That is to believe that, it would be as sinful as to believe that When patients go to a doctor's office, he thinks that they're coming there to enrich him. A doctor doesn't feel that way. When he sees people coming to his office, he says, "Thank you, Father, for the opportunity you're giving me to help these people." If he gets rich by it, that's incidental. Heaven help the doctor who's in his office, or the lawyer, or the minister, thinking that I'm here to get rich, and you're coming here to make me rich. Oh, no, you're coming here to give me the opportunity to help you with my knowledge. Why isn't business that way? When I go into a department store, why isn't the thought, "Thank you for coming in here and giving us the opportunity to provide what you need"? Of course we're going to make money on it, but that's incidental to the fact that we have met your need. We have served you. We are here for that purpose. You can't go to New York to buy a shirt. We're here to see that we have it for you. That's our service, and that's what we're in business for, to serve you. By reflection, by reverse action, we do get rich, but only in proportion to our service to you. Don't you know that spiritually speaking, every business transaction is performed for the benefit of the other fellow? That's why it's performed. When people sell us a book, it isn't that they should make money. It's because they are serving our need for that book. The making of the money is incidental to the service, or it should be. And so whether or not it's an article of clothing or whether it's a book, whatever it is, our object in the business world is to serve the needs of the other fellow and feel when he comes into our shop, "Thank you for giving me this opportunity of blessing you." He need never worry about going broke while that's his attitude. Now, if a man were in business, remember that that would have to be a specific treatment on his part almost every day. He'd have to remember, I'm not going downtown to my shop to get rich. I'm not going down there to make money. I'm going down there to serve the community. Therefore, I must have a clean window and a clean door and a clean shop, and make my shop a pleasant place for them to be in, so forth and so on. We have firms like J.C. Penney and Company that were built on those principles. We have machine building firms like Letourneau, who, when he was bankrupt and tried to figure out why, finally realized, I have everything in my business but God. Now, it'll never happen again. When I go into my business now, I take God as my partner, and the first thing I'm going to do is declare him in for 10% without any investment. And you know the story. Today he gives 80% to charity of his profits. He keeps 20% for himself. And we're told that last year that 20% amounted to $2 million. Yes, business is not cold. Business is not cruel. Business is not mercenary, unless the individual running the business has not learned the principles of life. But if he has learned the principles of life, then it becomes necessary for him occasionally to remind himself of those principles, and we call that treatment. We give ourselves a treatment. Just the same as I told you about this room. Do you think I would come to one of these meetings without consciously remembering that whoever enters this door is entering the door of my consciousness, and that therefore I must meditate in order to have the presence of God there for them to meet when they enter my consciousness, and that my consciousness must be clean, and that my consciousness must be friendly. What kind of a reception do you think people would get who entered here if I had a little fight with my wife before I came here? You know the answer to that. That's her protection. She can't have a fight with me because I can't afford to fight. I have to keep a friendly consciousness and a loving one, because nobody comes into this room to see the room, and nobody comes into this room to see me sitting here. I don't look like Clark Gable or Frank Sinatra or Alan, what's his name, Ladd. So they don't come here to see me, but they come. And why? Because in coming, they enter the household of God. They enter the consciousness of God. They find that for hours I have meditated or read or dictated mail, everything that keeps me in the consciousness of God. And then when they come in, they feel, if they're at all receptive, if they're at all sensitive, they feel that sense of peace. See that? That's what business is. Every businessman should make it his business. Every teacher should make it their business to meditate before they go into their business or their schools, so that everybody that comes into their consciousness comes in and finds God waiting to greet them, love waiting to greet them. That is a treatment. That is consciously knowing the truth. Now for a major thing. This is a major treatment now. Healing work can only be successful, spiritual healing work I'm talking about, spiritual healing work can only be successful through the consciousness of a person who knows that there are not two powers in the world, good and evil, and who is not eternally trying to get one power to do something to another power. Now this takes training. This takes lots of treatment, self-treatment. Because, mark this, every single person that comes to you for help, for a sick body or a sick mind, instantly rouses in you the desire to want to do something to that disease. You want a power to overcome it or destroy it. You want a power to remove it. And you lose. You can't win. If you take up the sword, you'll die. You have to be, if you want to do spiritual healing, you have to maintain yourself in the consciousness which is always saying to Pilate, thou couldst have no power over me. Whether Pilate is a man, or Pilate is a sin, or Pilate is a disease, or Pilate is unemployment, you still have to be in the consciousness that says, thou couldst have no power over me, because there's only one power, and that's God. And then rest and rest and rest. Now, do you see how much treatment you have to give yourself to be able to live in the conviction that there's only one power, and that you don't use God, you don't use truth to overcome or destroy? You realize truth to be the only power. I was reading a paper written by a doctor and given by him at a very large meeting last week, in which he made the statement that a great tragedy has come upon the world in the form of antibiotics. That whereas they actually did do their work of overcoming the germs and killing the infection that they were meant to do, that now more people are dying from them than from the diseases that they cured. And he's asked the doctors to stop using them, or to find some way of overcoming the harm that they're doing. Because the deaths from these remedies are greater than the deaths from the diseases. Do you imagine that? That's a lesson for us in taking up the sword. One power to overcome another power. In our work, we don't do that. At least, if we are sufficiently drilled and trained in the principles of life. We know that there's only one power. But we don't know it well enough ever to stop giving ourselves treatment to remind ourselves. Because the pressure of the world is so great, and the fear is so great, that every time someone comes to us with a serious sin or a serious disease, we quick swish around looking if we can't find a God to help us do something to it. We don't succeed. In spiritual healing, we succeed only in proportion as we can attain an inner conviction that God is the only power. Life is the only creative power and the only maintaining and sustaining power, and that God has no opposite and no opposition. And that we're not using God to heal a disease. Now this is difficult. It's difficult because all theology has taught us that we can go out and find a God to do something for us. All material law tells us of two powers, good and evil. And every mental law is made up of both good and evil. Just as this minister proved that with good thoughts you can grow a plant, and with bad thoughts you can kill it. Two powers in the mental realm, but not in the spiritual. Once you reach the spiritual realm, there are not two powers. There's only one. How do you reach that spiritual power? You better keep knowing the truth. Specifically, and this is treatment. Treatment is whatever I have to tell myself to keep reminding myself of whatever is already truth. Do you see the importance of treatment? Now when you go back to my writings, notice that without telling you that I was giving you treatments, you were receiving treatments on every page. Now notice that while I didn't use the term, that I was doing it. Why didn't I use the term? Because in the beginning, it misleads students. They're apt to think that those treatments create the new conditions. They're apt to think that those treatments are something you hold to so as to make something come true. And so I try to teach treatment without saying it is treatment, as much as possible, except where it comes to classes, and by that time students are prepared to know that a treatment isn't a treatment to do something to somebody. A treatment is something I give myself, first of all, to enlighten me as to the truth of being, secondly, to keep calling to my conscious awareness the reminder of this truth forever and forever and forever, because if I went 1 hour without the reminder, the very next hour I'd be trying to get God to do something for one of my friends. I'd be trying to influence God. Sometimes I'd even be trying to tell God. And so therefore I have to remind myself, no, God is. God is. God already knows. It's God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. God alone is, and that's treatment. That's knowing the truth, and it's knowing the truth that sets you free from the appearance. Not from anything real, from the appearance. Thank you, because that is a big treatment tonight, and whatever's left we'll have tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock.